Driving, it sucks! But what if I wanted to drive as a turtle, a fungus, or a monkey? And I have your answer right here. Right here. The Mario Kart series has been responsible for more family fighting since the invention of divorce, but it's also one of the most popular series in the history of Nintendo. And rightfully so. It's a game that you could pick up and play at any time, at anywhere, and still find fun out of it. From the first game in the series on the Super Nintendo to its later outings on newer hardware, the games just seemingly got better and better as time went on. But the popularity of the games are insane. It might be crazy to think about, but there's people out there that only know the Mario series as a kart racing game and not as a series of platformers. It's wild, but when you look at Mario a little more closer, the Mario Kart series is one of the best-selling spin-offs from the Mario franchise, and not any of the sports games or party games, not even the Paper Mario series. No, godforsaken Mario Kart. And I get it! Millions of people find happiness by racing and being a jerk in Mario Kart. The success of the series led to it being one of the best-selling video game series of all time, an accomplishment that I think speaks to the quality of the games more than anything else. And I can't wrap my head around Mario Kart Wii being one of the best-selling games on the Wii, when it should be Gummy Bear's Mini Golf. Over the years, the Mario Kart series has continued to evolve and expand and have become the blueprint for a kart racing game. And the Mario Kart series is the closest thing to getting a sequel to the Bible. Each iteration builds on the last one and improves on the prior. Say what you will about the different games in the series, but everyone has their favorite. Yeah, I'm sure someone somewhere is enjoying the torture of playing Super Circuit. But the way the series has evolved over time is interesting. The new addition of characters, games that can be played on phones, the change of music, items, and new ways to play, all these different things when taken all together, it shows the evolution of Mario Kart. From a basic kart racing game on the SNES to one of the most influential racing games of all time. And also Double Dash. It shows the growth of the series, being able to change with the times and change the landscape of kart racing games altogether. And it all started here. Super Mario Kart, the second worst game. It's single-handedly responsible for bringing forth the Mario Kart series and laying the groundwork for what a Mario Kart game should be. You can't have peanut butter without peanuts, and you can't have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe without peanut butter. I mean Super Mario Kart. This is like the caveman drawings of Mario Kart. Before we got 64, this is what the people in caves were playing. Because it's primitive as all heck. It's not that Super Mario Kart is hard to play. Okay, actually it is that. But without this game, a lot of the features that we see in some of our favorite Mario Kart games, even kart games in general, derive from here. It paved the road for all other kart racers, and even if it's the least enjoyable for me, I still appreciate it for all that it's done. But it still sucks. Super Mario Kart was the first game in the series, and a lot of the growing pains of being the eldest child on inferior hardware is present, but it also brought a lot of good to the table. The roster has a good range. Of course, there's a main cast of characters like Mario and Luigi and Peach, but being able to play as Koopa or Bowser for the first time ever in the series history, that's a very big highlight for this game. But the impact of Super Mario Kart can't be understated. Tons of stuff that we love about the Mario Kart series, things that have become staple of the series, originated here. Many of the locations that we've come to hate and love started off here and went on to be improved or inspire future tracks. Koopa Beach, Rainbow Road, Donut Plains, Choco Island, they have all pretty much left a mark on the series as we keep getting new iterations of these old themes. The multiplayer also introduced Battle Mode, and while not as good as other games, it can be a fun time, just like how filing your taxes can be a fun time too. I think visually, Super Mario Kart left a good impression for the rest of the series, as every game thereafter emulated that third-person view from here on out. Look at all the contemporary SNES racing games released at the time, and Super Mario Kart visually still holds up, as it's not trying to be this futuristic racing sim like Stunt Race FX, which admittedly looked cool back then, but it sucks now. The music is probably the biggest highlight for me. A lot of the simpler tunes from the game I find more endearing than the bombastic songs that we'll hear in the series from years to come. Tracks like Koopa Beach and Vanilla Lake are earworms that won't leave my head. No, seriously, I think I have an infection. All of the items that we've come to know and love from the Mario Kart series originated in Super Mario Kart. The Koopa shells, mushrooms, and bananas have gone on to become series staples, and for the amount of stuff that Super Mario Kart has introduced to the series, I'm forever grateful. But the game isn't that fun to play. The track layout is insanely stiff, and how should I say this? Square. I don't know, but the tracks have always been really small with insanely precise turns that you have to make, and playing the courses with multiple people gives me a good case of claustrophobia. The controls are also my biggest gripe with the game, because just like my emotions, they're very sensitive. The controls are something that you definitely have to get used to because I've been spoiled by analog control my entire life. And good lord, the drifting here sucks! if I can even call it that. But even with all the problems of being the first game in a series on early hardware, Super Mario Kart paved the way to be improved and expanded upon, and rightfully so, because the sequel, Mario Kart 64, took that formula of Super Mario Kart, flaws and all, and made it much better. Mario Kart making the jump to 3D is like the third best thing to ever happen in my life. And that's after the invention of the Wii and Mario Party 7. And Mario Kart 64 is a masterclass in how to make a sequel and make a much better game than your first outing. If Super Mario Kart is the blueprint, then Mario Kart 64 is the house and all the other games are just renovations. Where Super Mario Kart walked with its visuals, music, and gameplay, Mario Kart 64 ran and made it much more enjoyable. Drifting became better. No longer were making turns these things that I dreaded to do, but it became a fun part of the game. The locations really popped and were much bigger and wider, allowing for faster gameplay and more chaos to ensue. And the items still sucked. But the biggest change has to have been the controls. Say what you want about playing a car racing game with a D-pad, that's the closest we'll be to experiencing medieval torture. The analog control was a game changer, allowing for more precise driving and less pain in my thumbs. This isn't the best playing game in the series, that of course would go to Mario Kart 8. And this isn't the worst playing game in the series, that would go to Mario Kart Tour. But knowing that this is an early 3D title whose controller was made for people with 3 fingers, you can give it a pass. As an early 3D title, I have to admit that Mario Kart 64 still looks pretty okay to this day. Sure, the details aren't there for every track and the character sprites are still in 2D, but you can tell that Nintendo was trying to put as much character in this game as possible. There's a couple of tracks in this game that are kind of forgettable, like Luigi's Raceway, but then you get tracks like Toad's Turnpike and you remember what the meaning of life is. The multiplayer is where this game really shines. Being the first in the series to have up to 4 players all playing at the same time, this is where families started to break up. You think you can have this type of fun in Super Mario Kart? If you answer yes to that question, you might be a psychopath. No, this is where unfairness originated. This game is where the blue shell started from, and by God, does it only go downhill from here. What if I made Super Mario Kart, but made it suck even more? That's the basis for Mario Kart Super Circuit. Look, I have a soft spot for this game, but that's mainly it. A spot. I just could never get into this game, no matter how much I try to like it. It's portable Mario Kart, but it feels more in line with Super Mario Kart than with the future games. Even as a kid, I always found this game to be really bland, and I was stupid as a kid. It's not really a bad game. Okay, I just lied, it is. But it's not something I can see much people caring about, because it's such a slog to get through. The music's pretty good, and I'll give it that. And that's all I'll give it. The atmosphere of the game is kinda neat. I didn't have a chance to play the multiplayer mode, but if the single player is anything to run by, I'm sure it's fine. You know, the same way you have a bad haircut, it's fine. But truly, if you ever had the question of what would Super Mario Kart play like if it was portable and on a Game Boy Advance in 2001, well, first off, what's actually wrong with you? And second, this game exists to answer your question. But things do begin to look up here on out. Like the next game in line, Mario Kart Double Dash. Oh, would you look at that? It's time for my annual squealing about Double Dash beginning in 3, 2, 1. Mario Kart Double Dash is just a godsend. It's easily my favorite of the game so far, and that's just because it does everything the best way possible. The concept of the game being the coolest thing the series has ever done since. Not just having one, but 2 drivers to control at the same time. This game just has the best character selection screen, and this is where humanity peaked. Yup, in 2003. This game being the first to have different customizations of cards to pick from was a big game changer that's been available in every game since, and it makes the game feel a bit more personable too. The characters in this game blows the previous games out of the water, and it introduced the character of Toadette, who's become a series staple. This game is really zany with having to switch back and forth between characters or use special items, 2 features which haven't returned to the Mario Kart series ever since, but I love for it to be brought back in the future. This gives the game its own unique personality and charm, something that I can't say about the other games in the series. While the tracks aren't the best, there's certainly more better tracks in the future games, but just the core gameplay of switching characters and having special items for each character, or being able to hold 2 items at once, it just makes the game more special to me. Now this game does have its detractors though. People say that the gimmick of switching between characters in and out can get repetitive, and to those people I say, first off, it's not a gimmick, and second off, you're stupid. There's just a lot of strategy in making sure you have the right character with the right cart that makes the game a lot more fun to play over and over again because you're just never sure how a race will come out. Also, people like to complain that there's a lack of tracks in Double Dash, and they're actually right. There's only 16 courses, and honestly, that really sucks. And with this game having LAN play and having up to 16 players with a wired connection, this laid the foundation for future wired and wireless gameplay for the series, so people like me with no friends can play with people all across the world. But with this game out the way, we're on to a game that many consider to be one of the best games in the Mario Kart series, and one that I consider to be pretty good. Mario Kart DS! This game really took things to a whole new level, with it being the first portable Mario Kart game. That one doesn't count. And this is a really solid title for being Mario Kart on the go. And when you sit back and remember that this came out in the year 2005, it's actually really impressive to see these 3D models in fully realized worlds, especially when you're coming from this. Having Dry Bones as a playable character, introducing the Bullet Bill as a new item, these are all things that I've taken for granted as a stupid old Mario Kart player. And on top of that, I can start the game off with making the emblem, and it's completely pointless. However, people might hate me, and that's a given because I already hate myself, but I think the tracks for this game aren't the greatest as some people may claim. There's some cool concepts like courses based off Luigi's Mansion or Super Mario Sunshine, and I absolutely love the tracks when it's based off the most recent Mario games, but they do feel a bit flat because it's on lesser hardware. But to have this all on the DS still blows my mind to this very day. I can see this being the pinnacle of Mario Kart for some people, but to me, I've already seen the pinnacle and it's not this. There are some balancing issues with certain vehicles being oddly slower despite their appearance looking slim. And the character selection is fine, it's just that I've seen better before. But I find this game to have some fresh ideas with there being missions, which is something I think the series is missing to this day. Although, maybe the biggest thing that this game brought to the table was functional online play that's no longer functional. This is something that future Mario Kart installments only improved on in the future because the online play for the DS was... well, it's 2005, what do you think? But well, after this game in Double Dash, we have a game that just can't die! Mario Kart Wii! The 6th Mario Kart game and the most groundbreaking one because it induced early arthritis. I find Mario Kart Wii to be in a sort of middle ground. It by far had the biggest influence on future Mario Kart games. Having full online play with up to 12 players, more customizable karts, and introducing bikes, which is one of my favorite additions thus far. The tracks for this game are much more interactive. There's more ramps and dash panels that make this game feel like the best in this series so far. Some tracks just really stand out, like Coconut Mall and Maple Treeway. Mario Kart Wii forever changed the racing aspect of the series with the trick system. Speeding off a ramp, you could have your character perform a trick. It just feels so natural. I have no idea how I played any of the other games without it. There was even the Mario Kart channel, which too bad I don't have it. I don't feel like hacking my Wii today. Though this was very cool for its time, to have a whole Wii channel dedicated to Mario Kart information, which you can now get from your local news channel instead. This was the era that brought in different ways to play Mario Karts. Oh yeah, you can use a controller, or you can be an adult and use the Wii Wheel. This brought in an influx of companies creating new cheap accessories to play Mario Kart with them asking, have you tried using our racing wheel? Which I reply with, have you tried talking to Jesus? But my main gripe with this game isn't with the gameplay itself, it's with the look of the game. I know the Wii is similar to the GameCube in specs, just like me and my brother, but the visuals for this game always looked so oversaturated and washed out, especially when compared to Double Dash that looks like a Renaissance painting. The battle mode also isn't the best in this game, and it took away the tense nature that the previous Mario Kart games had. But all in all, this game pushed the series forward, and after Mario Kart Wii came a game that I didn't really care about because I never played it. Mario Kart 7. Outside of having underwater sections and gliding, two things I'm happy that this game brings to the picnic, don't get me wrong, I just don't really have much interest in this game. Oh, I'm sure it's as fun as ever, but this was a game that I skipped out on, and not for any particular reason. I just didn't play it because I was a teenager at the time and was too busy playing my mature games. It definitely looks much better than Mario Kart Wii. Yeah, that's all I got. And there's also the Mario Kart arcade games like GP, and yup, it's Mario Kart. But then came Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the true pinnacle of Mario Kart games, and in my opinion, the perfect Mario Kart games. It's a culmination of all the things from the past games pretty much placed into one. The tricks from Wii, the gliding and underwater sections from 7, the double items from Double Dash, the coins from Super Circuit. On top of that, the game brought in anti-gravity mechanics, which is just a cherry on top. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is all around the definitive Mario Kart game. I can't see myself recommending a newcomer Super Circuit or Double Dash. If a person wants the true Mario Kart experience, then 8 is pretty much the best one. The controls are the best, the visuals are incredible, and aren't oversaturated and dialed to 11 like on Wii. And by God, the music for this game can't be touched by any other game in this series. Everything in this game seemed like it was properly curated, taking the flaws of the previous games and tweaking it as close to perfection as possible. So much so that Nintendo has pretty much treated 8 Deluxe like a new game in its own entirety, despite being a port of a game from 2014. The amount of different cars and vehicles is insane. I always wanted to picture Yoshi driving a Mercedes, and now I can. The DLC for the game, having reps from Animal Crossing, Splatoon, and even Link from Legend of Zelda, is the perfect set of new characters to bring in and spice things up. However, that does take me to a bit of an issue I have with this game and its lack of representation of characters from the Mario series. It's amazing to have different characters from other Nintendo series, don't get me wrong, but the small amount of returning characters is a bit concerning. There's no Petey Piranha, at launch there wasn't Birdo, but instead in their place were babies. Baby Daisy, Baby Peach, Baby Mario, and Luigi. There's even a Baby Rosalina. The roster to me is just terrible. Sure, you have the series mainstays, but then you have a bunch of the Koopa kids taking up spots, and it just reeks of padding. But then again, I'm a grown man complaining about a Mario Kart game. I need a life. Even with the issues of the roster, this game is just incredible. There's a mix of retro and new tracks, and the retro tracks are more lively and colorful than ever before, and are more fun to play on, while the new tracks blows everything out of the water. These tracks are just visually stunning, and the games run amazingly with no slowdown or dips. This is what Mario Kart was heading for over 20 years ago, and it's near perfection. And then we have Mario Kart Tour, Sin in the form of a video game. It's a fine time, but every time I boot it up, I feel like I'm committing a crime of some sort. But a lot of the DNA from this game comes from other games in the series. There's missions just like with Mario Kart DS, and there's items from all over the series. The main highlight of this game is the wide cast of characters. Think of any character from the Mario Kart series that you could picture driving a car, and it's probably there, okay? Maybe not. There's a good variety of tracks too, spanning from different games in the series, and new tracks which quite honestly put old tracks to shame. A lot of the tracks even found their way into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe through DLC, which in my opinion is a good thing for when the game's servers eventually shut down. It's not the best Mario Kart game, but it's adequate enough. I just wouldn't trust a person who says it's better than any of the mainline games, except for Super Circuit. There's also Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, which I'm not spending any money on. Going through all the games in the Mario Kart series, it shows us that through its up and downs, the core gameplay of Mario Kart hasn't been lost. It's all about having chaotic fun with your family, friends, and even strangers, and that's what brings all the games together for an experience that can't be replicated. And that's what makes all these games, even Super Circuit, fun. You know, people are always wondering where the Mario Kart series could go next. And I have the perfect idea. Mario Kart Tri-State Area. It's the perfect blend of realism and horror.